Bud Light, one of the most popular beers in the United States, hires a new marketing executive. The new marketing executive just talks gobbledygook and garbage that basically, straight, white, heterosexual men are terrible, and despite the fact they're the reason we're the number one beer, we've got to start to pivot. And yet again, this Dylan Mulvaney, who apparently is the only trans person that they can endorse, ends up becoming the face of the brand. Surprise, surprise. The people who've been insulted by the marketing department turn around and say, screw you.
I don't know what Bud Light was thinking. They had a marketing director for 43 years who understood who their customer base was and marketed appropriately to them. Then they hire some woke Harvard Wharton grad who's only 39 years old, who outlined her whole plan 3 days before it was unveiled with Dylan Mulvaney, talking about how we had to move on from these frat boy customers who she finds disgusting, but who pay her bills. I don't know if she ran it by the senior executives because they haven't said anything. And I predict this woman gets fired, and she gets fired publicly if Bud Light wants to save its brand. There have been articles now, Fox Business and others, checking in with beer distributors, checking in with pub owners, checking in with sports leagues. People are dumping out their Bud Light like it's the Tea Party all over again into the Boston River. They're disgusted, not just with the fact that this brand is aligned with a trans woman who's co-opting all these sponsorships and making a mockery of womanhood, but with the brand's disdain for what is obviously their customer base, which is working class guys. White, black, doesn't matter. Working class guys are the ones who drink Bud Light. You go to the sporting events, you go to an NFL football game, that's the beer in the stands. And there used to be almost a manliness associated with choosing it. It was something like a cool guy would do. Now, what you want is this Dylan Mulvaney who prances around dressed like Eloise from the books, like a child girl, like a little girl. That's your new ambassador? Of course, Kid Rock, the singer, and others are going to be dumping their beer and shooting their beer cans up. So they've completely misjudged their audience, and they appear to hate them. So yeah, there's a massive backlash. So far, there hasn't been to Oil of Olay, the skincare brand that caters to older women who are developing wrinkles. Why would you use Dylan is 28, a 28-year-old man. That's what Dylan is, a biological, to market your female product that is for older women looking to fight wrinkles. It's a pander. It's nothing more than a pander. And then there's Nike. The one thing a biological man doesn't typically have is breasts. Dylan is no exception. Dylan's been on hormones for about a year since she just documented her 365 days of, quote, girlhood, which is a lie. Dylan's been on hormones for at most a year. Dylan doesn't have breasts. I'm not going to try to characterize what's on Dylan's front, but it isn't two breasts. And she's been hired by Nike to model their sports bras. There's, of all things, Paul, not their sneakers, not their headbands, their sports bras. This is such a middle finger to actual women. You can't find an actual woman with actual breasts to model and market your sports bras, Nike. What is this? It's disgusting. It's a slap in the face to women. It would truly be like a company that is marketing products to African Americans, that in particular trying to target that group, and they hire a white person, and then they put the white person in blackface because they couldn't find an actual black person with brown skin to do the job. Why not? You didn't look. You didn't care to. You wanted to find the most offensive person possible, and trust me, we are offended.
Well, the big issue behind all of this, apart from, the sort of the absurdity of elites chasing fashion and approval inside sort of the lovey set of New York and LA, and you dealt with this in great detail today, and I want everyone to go and listen to your podcast about this specifically today, because what's happening is that major companies in the United States, same here in Australia, they're falling for ESG, which of course is all about, environment and society and wokeism. That's one thing. But the second thing is that there are far left organisations which are handing out gold stars, that are rating companies about how awesome they are. The test for these things, which may have sometime in the past, as you put it today, have been reasonable about, what percentage of women work in the company, how gay friendly are you, do you have parental leave? But now It's about how crazy your company is. And if you don't have those stars, then you don't get the ESG. And if you don't get the ESG, you don't get the money from the banks.
That's exactly it. And so what was typically something that just looked for diversity within your corporation and a fair hiring practice, a fair benefits package for people who are in minority groups has now been co-opted into something that's all about trans presence. This human rights campaign, which is a far left organization, which is run by a woman. It's a Black woman who says she's a queer Black woman who is determined to sneak this agenda in wherever she can and to give the companies gold stars that follow people like Dylan Mulvaney and promote people like Dylan Mulvaney. She's in charge of the stars. And she's absolutely delighted to withhold one if you don't have a face like Dylan Mulvaney representing your beer company. And they've done it voluntarily. The top 5 corporations who are using this system, it's a corporate equality initiative, CEI. And what it really means now is equity. It was equality back in the day, 20 years ago. Now it's shifted, as you know, until we must have equal outcomes. The top 5 brands are all brands you know. It's Apple, it's Amazon, it's CVS, the biggest pharmacy here in the United States. So these brands have been co-opted, and therefore we're going to see a lot more of these partnerships by brands like Nike, by brands like Amazon with these people, which then normalizes them.